Think back to last night. Not the morning. Not lying in bed scrolling. The actual moment you fell asleep. The exact instant you crossed from awake to gone. You can't find it. Nobody can. You remember lying there, and then you remember nothing. And there is no line between the two. No click. No fade to black you actually witnessed. One moment is missing from every single night of your life, and it's the most important one. The moment you stopped being conscious. You have fallen asleep roughly 10,000 times. You have never once been there for it. Here's what makes that strange instead of obvious. You'd expect to feel it. Falling asleep is the biggest thing your mind does all day. It switches you off. You feel yourself sit down. You feel yourself yawn. You feel the light go out. So why is the one moment that actually matters, the handover from you to nothing, always missing? It's not that you weren't there. You were awake. Your eyes were open a minute before. Your brain was recording. It's that your brain deletes it, on purpose. Every night it erases roughly the last 5 minutes before you go under, wipes them before they were ever saved, so that the moment you'd most want to remember is the one moment you're guaranteed to lose. And it's the same machinery, almost exactly the same, that switches a person off on an operating table. You've just never been told that the things surgeons pay an anesthesiologist to do to you, your own brain does to you, for free every night. So what is actually happening in those 5 deleted minutes? To catch it, you'd need to interrupt someone right as they slip under, and check what they can still remember. That's almost exactly what a sleep scientist named James Wyatt did, with his colleagues in 1997. They brought people into a lab and wired them up to an EEG, a machine that reads the brain's electrical activity and can see, to the second, the instant sleep begins. Then, as each person lay there drifting off, the researchers fed them information. Words, simple things, spoken out loud, in those last hazy minutes before sleep. Then a little later, they woke them up and asked, "What do you remember?" And the answer was almost nothing. The closer a word had been spoken to the actual moment of sleep, the less likely the person was to recall it. The final few minutes of their waking life, the words, the thoughts, the room, were just gone, not fuzzy, erased. They'd been awake, they'd heard it, they'd understood it, and their brain had quietly declined to save any of it. Scientists have a name for this. Sleep onset amnesia. Your brain stops writing memories to permanent storage several minutes before you actually lose consciousness. You're still awake, still walking around inside your own head, but the recorder has already been switched off. And here's the detail that should stop you cold. This is the exact same thing that happens to a boxer knocked out cold. He almost never remembers the punch that did it. It's the same thing that happens to patients before electroconvulsive therapy. The seconds before are wiped clean. Your brain, every night, is running the identical protocol as a knockout blow. Gently, on a schedule, on you. Now, why would a brain be built to erase its own final minutes? The answer is that sleep isn't a switch, and that's the part almost nobody gets right. You picture it like a light. On, then off. Awake, then asleep. One clean flip. It's nothing like that. Falling asleep is a slow, messy, staggered handover, and different parts of your brain clock out at different times. Deep in your brainstem sits a network called the reticular activating system. Think of it as the switchboard that keeps the rest of your brain awake. As you drift off, it doesn't slam a switch. It slowly, unevenly turns the arousal signals down, region by region, which means for several minutes you are neither fully awake nor asleep. Parts of your brain have already gone dark. Others are still running. You are, briefly, a half-lit building. Some floors shut down, some still working late, and the memory floor shuts down early. That's the whole trick. The system that saves experiences to long-term storage powers down before the system that keeps you conscious. So there's a window, those 5 minutes, where you are still awake, still experiencing but no longer recording, living in a room where the security cameras have already been turned off. And this some floors dark, some floors lit idea isn't a metaphor I'm reaching for. It's something scientists have watched happen. In 2011, a team led by Vladislav Vyazovsky published a study in Nature with a title that sounds like a contradiction. Local sleep in awake rats. They recorded individual neurons in rats that were up and moving around, behaving completely awake, with an awake brainwave pattern on the EEG. And they found that small patches of the cortex were switching off anyway, going silent, slipping into a sleep-like state for a few moments, one region at a time, while the animal carried on as if nothing was happening. The longer the rat had been awake, the more often it happened. Read that back. Parts of a brain can be asleep, while the creature it belongs to is walking around, awake, with no idea. Sleep was never an all-or-nothing switch for anyone. It's 1,000 little switches, and they don't flip together. You have proof of this handover being clumsy. You felt it. That sudden, violent jerk. The one that yanks you awake just as you were dropping off. Sometimes with a feeling of falling off a cliff. That's called a hypnic jerk. Around 70% of people get them, and they are the single best evidence you'll ever feel that sleep is not a clean switch. Here's what one is. As you fall asleep, a set of neurons deep in your brain, in a region called the ventrolateral preoptic nucleus, start firing to paralyze your muscles for the night. They're supposed to shut your body down smoothly, but the timing is delicate, and sometimes the shutdown and the still awake part of your brain disagree for a fraction of a second. The gate that's supposed to close gently instead bounces. A last burst of motor signal escapes. Your leg kicks. Your whole body lurches. It lasts between 75 and 250 milliseconds, a quarter of a second, at most. And the falling sensation? One leading idea is that your brain, feeling your muscles suddenly go limp, misreads it as you are actually falling, and fires off an emergency jolt to catch you. That jerk is your two brains, the one shutting you down and the one not ready to let go, caught in the act of disagreeing. A glimpse, for a quarter of a second, of the messy handover you're normally asleep for. So put it together. Every night there's a window where you're awake but not recording. Your brain is half shut. Your body might twitch, and the whole thing gets deleted. But here's the question that turns this from a curiosity into something genuinely unsettling. If your brain routinely runs several minutes where you are conscious, experiencing, thinking, present, and then erases every trace of it, how would you ever know how often that happens? Think about it. You only know about sleep-onset amnesia because scientists caught it with a machine, from the outside. From the inside, there is no gap. There's no stub of a missing memory, no sense of something was here. Deleted time doesn't feel like anything. It feels like it never happened at all. You experience roughly 5 minutes every night that leave zero fingerprint on your mind, and the only reason you believe those minutes existed is that a stranger in a lab told you they did. Now sit with the obvious next thought. That nightly nap on the couch, the one where you only closed your eyes for a second. The lecture you were awake for the whole time. The drive home you don't quite remember. How much of your life have you been conscious for? Genuinely present, thinking and feeling, and then lost, with no trace left behind to even miss? You cannot answer that. Nobody can. Because the tool you'd use to check your memory is the exact thing being switched off. You think of yourself as a continuous person, one unbroken stream of you, running from morning to night. But that stream has holes in it, small ones, every single night and maybe more than you'll ever know. And your brain stitches right over each hole so cleanly that you wake up certain you were there the whole time. You weren't. You never are. There's a version of you that lives for a few minutes every night in a room with the cameras off, and then is erased before it can tell you anything about itself. Here's where it leaves us. You will do this again tonight. You'll lie down, you'll think a few last thoughts, and you will never ever know what they were. Some version of you will spend the final minutes of today awake, aware, alive inside your own skull, and that version will be gone by morning with nothing left behind. Not a memory, not a shadow, nothing. And you'll wake up tomorrow completely convinced you were there for all of it. We spend so much time afraid of the big blackout, the one at the end, the one we don't come back from. But you've been rehearsing a small one every night of your life. A few quiet minutes where the recorder stops, the lights go down floor by floor, and the person you call you simply isn't being written down anymore. The strangest part isn't that it happens. It's that it's happened 10,000 times already, and you have never once noticed a thing. So tonight, try. Lie down and try to catch the exact moment. Try to stand at the edge and watch yourself go over. You won't make it. Nobody does. The moment you'd need to remember is the one your brain has already decided you're not allowed to keep. And that's the closest you'll ever come to meeting the part of yourself that disappears every night. The part that was awake, right up until the end, and was never written down.